All right, I need you guys to stop talking, please. Yes, girls. Stop talking. All right, so got to get through this test review. I am recording it. It's recording right now, just to let you know. This is, as long as your test will be, you need to make sure you know the formulas on the test. The only formulas that I will give you are the cheat sheet. That's it. Okay, so a lot of these law of sines and cosines are not there. So you need to make sure that you know those two. So the very first one says use the law of cosines. Our law of cosines, remember whatever side you're trying to find, you're going to add the other two sides squared. Minus 2 times those sides. And then cosine of the angle that corresponds to the side you're trying to find. So then what if I'm trying to find angle B, or if I'm trying to side B? What would my formula be? The two sides that you don't need. Okay, so the other two sides. Minus 2 times AC, cosine, whatever you started with. Okay, so it ends, starts and ends the same. In the middle is the other two letters. So if I did C squared, what would I have?
Squared.
Minus 2 times cosine big C. So there's all your formulas. Were there different formulas for them? Yes, it's just rearranged. So if you can just remember this, you don't have to remember the rearranged. If you'd like to go back and study those, that's fine. All right, so you're given that little a equals 3, little b equals 11, little c is 10. We're looking for big A. So if we're looking for big A, which formula do you use?
A squared.
Yeah, the top one. So whatever you're looking for, you want to find that one. Okay. So A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of big A. All right. What is little a?
3.
Little b? Little c? Minus 2 times 11 times 10 cosine, and we're looking for a. Clean them all up and then solve. So what is 3 squared? I'm going to go ahead and do 11 squared plus 10 squared. That gives me 221 minus 2 times 11 times 10. This is a 9. It looks like an A. Sorry, 220 cosine A. Treat cosine A like a variable, just one variable, X or A or whatever you want to do. How would I solve for just cosine A? Minus 221. So 9 minus 221 gives me negative 212 equals negative 220 cosine A. Divide by negative 220. I get cosine A equals 0.9636. How do I find just A? And I just do the answer or go up and highlight that and put it back in. So cosine inverse of 0.9636, which equals 15.498, or which answer? 15.5. All right, look at the next one. What's it asking you to solve for? Big C, so we should start our equation with little c squared equals the other two, little a squared plus little b squared. Cosine C. We're going to do the same thing. What is little c? Little a? little b minus 2 times 6 times 9 cosine c. Clean it up. 12 squared is 6 squared plus 9 squared is, and then 2 times 6 times 9 is 108. I don't want this to be too much for you, but you can do this step all at the same time. So how do I just solve for C? Let's talk about that. What would I do if I got cosine C equals a number? What do I have to do in my calculator? Inverse. So let's do the inverse. What am I doing in this problem to solve? Minus 117. I'm going to put parentheses around that. 144 minus 117. And then what am I doing? Dividing by negative 108. Oh, what did I screw up? Did I put too many parentheses? There you go. What do I get? .477, or what is it? There you go. All right. It is the same thing on the next one. What are we looking for though? Little c. So I'm going to start with little c. Same formula as before, but I don't know c. Do I know little a? What is it? 10 squared plus 14 squared minus. Come on, guys. Cosine. Big C was 115. What do I need to make sure my calculator's in? Mine is in degree mode because I'm going to use degrees. Do all this at the same time. 10 squared plus 14 squared minus 2 times 10 times 14 cosine 115. So all at the same time. I get 414.33, and then I heard somebody say, okay, now we got to take the square root. And we get C equals 20.36. Doing it again. What are we trying to find?
Big A.
Big A, so we should start our formula with
A squared.
little a squared equals. What are the other two sides?
5.
And then cosine, finish and start with the same letter. We have little a is 10, little b is, little c is 11. So 2 times 5 times 11 cosine a. 10 squared is 100. 5 squared plus 11 squared, 146. 2 times 5 times 11 is 110 cosine A. How could I do it all at the same time? Cosine inverse. 100 minus 146 divided by negative 110. I did apple y equals to make it a little bit easier this time, so I'm not using 50,000 parentheses. What do we get? So what do you got to do for the first page? Remember the formula. All right, number 5, one more of those. Here's another formula. Guys, remember this formula? Mm-mm. So you have S equals A plus B plus C over 2. And then to get the area, You do S times S minus little a, S minus little b, S minus little c. So there's a second formula. Those two go together. You can't separate them. You'll find S first and then plug it into the formula. So know this formula. Do not ask me what the formulas are tomorrow.
Please.
Nope. We're going to start with S. How do we find S? When I put that in my calculator, I'm not going to waste your time and show you. You get 11.35. So then we do our area formula, S, which was 11.35. S, which is 11.35 minus A is 7.5. 11.35 minus and 11.35 minus 5.6. When you put that all in your calculator, you get 20.969. I will tell you that this one never rounds the right way. I don't know if it just doesn't have the right answer or what, but which one is the closest? So that's the one we're going to pick. It's going to be the one that's over. All right. Find the component form of vector V. So remember that the component form is Q1 minus P1, Q2 minus P2. How do you know which one is which? Which one is P and which one is Q?
The X.
Which one's your initial? How do you know the difference between your initial and your terminal? Remember, P is your initial, Q is your terminal.
All the way there.
Okay, so which one would be where you started? This is your P. This is your Q. All right, so Q1 would be your first X coordinate. What's your first X coordinate?
3.
Minus, what was your other X coordinate?
-1.
So we'll change to +1. Now your Y coordinate of your terminal?
-4.
Of your terminal? 1 minus -4 would be +4 again. No, it's because it's minus negative. Minus negative, yeah. All right, 3 + 1 is? 4 + 1 is? So your answer is? How do we find the magnitude? It's the distance formula. Does not matter which order you go in, okay? So it doesn't matter which point you put first or second, it's all gonna come out the same way. So you're gonna do the square root. What are your two X coordinates?
3, 0.
So 3 minus 0. What are your two Y coordinates? Those will be squared plus. So -6 minus 6 squared. Clean it up. 3 minus 0
3.
squared is
9.
-6 minus 6
-12.
squared is
-1.
positive 144. What is 9 plus 144? So how do they get this mess over here? Because I don't see the square root of 153.
You gotta do the thing where you.
All right.
There's 5 something with that, and then you gotta take that little 5 out.
Yeah, I get you. I need to find factors of 153. If you don't know how to find those factors, it's 153 divided x. And then your table will give you all of those. Let me set my table up to auto.
Three. Go to 17. I'll put 17. Sounds like 17.
All these are ugly decimals. There's
17's not-
17 and
Ah.
17 won't break down, but 9 will break into
Three.
3 and 3. We have a pair. So we bring those out. We leave the 17. Your answer is C. Right. Any questions on that? Given U equals 5I plus 4J and B equals 4I minus 3J, determine -9U minus V. You literally do it like it says. So -9. What is U?
5I plus 4J.
Minus what is V?
4I minus 3J.
So there's no formula here to remember, nothing at all. Multiply it out. What do we get when we distribute? Keep going. -36J. Distribute your negative here, we get. Add your like terms. What's -45 minus 4?
-49.
And then -36 plus 3 is. Your answer is A. So component form. Looks like this. What does it tell you in your problem? Two things.
But I
The magnitude of V is,
2.
what else does it tell you? Cosine of 120, and then there's an I, and then sine of 120, and there's a J. I'll show you. We'll get this cheat sheet tomorrow, and that's it. Cosine 120. -1/2. And then sine of 120. Square root of 3/2. And then you want to multiply by that 2. What is half of -2? -1I. And then we have 2 times square root of 3/2. Your 2's cancel, you're left with square root of 3J. And then you just look to see which one is your vector. So your numbers are -1 and square root of 3. Same thing on the next one. We're gonna do your magnitude, cosine theta I plus sine theta J. And again, because I said component form. What's your magnitude? Of cosine 150I plus sine 150J. Put the cheat sheet up here. What's your x coordinate of 150? Negative square root of 3/2. Sine of 150 or your y coordinate. 1/2 j. What do I do now? What did I do on the last one? Distribute. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So this will be negative 3 square root of 3i. 6 divided by 2 is 3j, or half of 6 is 3. So which one is my answer? Negative 3 square root of 3 and 3, which is 3. Know how to do dot products. That means multiply your x's, add, multiply your y's. Multiply your x's, add, multiply your y's. 2 times 3 is
6,
6 times -1.
negative
6 plus -6.
0.
That's it.
Students and staff, please pardon this interruption, but I need to know if anyone has located or has any information about a missing black and white Nike baseball cleat. This is very, very important because it disappeared while the student was walking down the band hall. He needs this cleat back as he will be leaving campus at 2:30. If anybody has information on where this black and white Nike baseball cleat may be, please return it to the office immediately. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I got that.
All right. Use the dot product to find the magnitude. To find the magnitude. So remember your formula for magnitude. This is what we're looking for. We had the formula for magnitude squared would be u times u. So you're just multiplying it by itself. That's all you're doing. So what is your vector if it's 5i plus 6j? 5, 6, good. If you're multiplying it by itself, how did I tell you do a dot product? X's, add y's. 5 times 5 is 6 times 6 is plus 25 is. This is the magnitude squared. So how do I get just the magnitude?
You got square.
Square root it. Look at all your answers. Which one's your answer?
E.
That's it. As your test looks just like this. So everything that you think you need to know, go ahead and know it. All right, next one. Find the angle between the vectors u and v.
Matthew Bowman, if you could please come to the office. Matthew Bowman, come to the office.
They got him. They got him.
Between the vectors u is -1, 4, and v is 3, -4. Shh, guys, round your answer to 2 decimal places. 2 decimal places. Here's this formula. Cosine theta equals your dot product over your 2 magnitudes, u and v. How do I do the dot product? Perfect. How do I do magnitudes? And when they only give us one number, that's what you use. So -1 squared plus 4 squared And then square root of 3 squared plus -4 squared. I'm going to do all of the top first. So -1 times 3 plus 4 times -4 gives me -19. -1 squared is 1. 4 squared is 16 plus 1 is 17. 3 squared is
9,
4 squared is 9 plus 16 is
25.
25. This is cosine theta. How do I get the actual degree? And I'm going to just put this in like it is, -19 over square root 17 square root 25. So second cosine alpha y equals -19 square root of 17, get out of that square root of 25. You could also, what is it doing? You gotta also put 5 there. And then you get what? 157.166. Which is C. So again, a lot of these are just formulas that you have to remember. All right, determine whether U and V are orthogonal, parallel, or neither. Orthogonal is the same thing as perpendicular. So if your dot product is 0, then it is orthogonal. Okay, so let's start there. How do we do the dot product?
X is minus X is 1.
Okay, so on this one, what are we doing?
4 times -48.
Hopefully you know that this does not equal 0. So it is not orthogonal. And then parallel would mean it has the same slope. You would do your y over your x should be equal to your y over your x. Are those equal? So not equal, not parallel. So what's your only answer?
D.
There you go. Okay. Write the complex number shown below in the trig form. So trig form, where's this number on the outside come from? Think about it. What was that value? Not quite. It is, but we called it something different. She is correct. It is the magnitude, but we had a letter for it this time.
W.
Good try. You were real close. It's R, but you are correct. It is magnitude. So if you can remember it as magnitude, perfectly fine. Got it? Everybody got it? So it was R, but it's the same thing as the magnitude. So don't stress out if you can remember magnitude, please keep that. All right. Because we're at 0, 0, we don't have to subtract or add 0 in our magnitude. Okay, so we would do, technically, we would do 3 minus 0 squared, and then your negative square root of 3 3 square root of 3 minus 0 squared. But because it's 0, we don't have to do that. So as long as it starts at 0, 0, you're just using the 2, the A and the B. So your A from right here is 3 squared plus your B is 3 square root of 3. Can you use the negative? Yes. What's going to happen when you square? So it doesn't matter if you don't put the negative on there. If you're upset that I didn't put the negative, put it on your paper. It's going to go away anyway. Is everybody good? Right? What is 3 squared? 9. 3 squared is? Square root of 3 squared is? 9 times 3 is? 9 times 3 is? Plus 9 is?
36.
Square root of 36 is?
6.
That's where the 6 is coming from. Did we have to do all that work? No, why? Because it's on all of them. Now, if you get one that's different, that's where it comes from and is the magnitude. So if you see that they're all the same, skip that step. Does everybody understand that? Don't do that if you don't have to. So now how do they get the rest of it? How did they get the pi over 3 or the 5 pi over 3? What did we use? What did we use? We used a trig function that related B and A. There's only, yeah, 3 of them. Tan is going to equal B over A. What was our B or our second number? What was our first number? What happens to that? We're left with tan theta negative square root of 3, right? Put that in your calculator. How do I put that in my calculator? And we are in degree mode, so it should give us a degree. You tell me what it is. Negative 60. What do I do with a negative 60 degrees?
Go backwards. Yeah, that was right. Let's go.
Where's it going to be at?
Fourth quadrant. Third.
Specifically. 360 minus 60 equals 300 degrees. And 300 degrees in radians, how would I figure that out?
5.
Or pi over 180. Pi over 180. We got to get the pi on the top. So basically, you're just dividing 300 by 180. 300 divided by 180. Math, enter, gives me. So 5 pi over 3. Which one's your answer? There you go. All right, so on 15, I could have skipped that magnitude step. Can I on 16? No, but what do you notice about all of them? So the only step I have to do is what? The magnitude, and then I can get my answer, so you don't have to do all of it. So R equals the square root of, which is your A?
3.
Squared plus, what's with that I?
1.
A 1. What happens to the square root of 3 squared? So it just gives you 3. 1 squared is? 1. 3 plus 1 is? 4. Square root of 4 is? 2. Answer is? At least she was saying it.
Yeah, Dylan.
17 and 18 are the same type of problem. What do you notice about 17? They're all the same, so I don't need to do the R part. What's the only part I need to do? The tan theta equals B over A, but look at this. Remember, it's A plus BI. Do I have an A?
Yes. No,
What is it?
1, 0.
It actually is 0. Hmm. Tan theta equals, what's your B?
10.
Over 0. What's wrong with that?
It doesn't work. It's illegal.
It is undefined. Where would I get 0 in the bottom? So think about this, is supposed to be y over x. Where would I get 0 in the bottom? One more time, y over x. So where do I have x coordinates that are 0? Top and bottom. Top and bottom. So the top is 90, or the bottom is. So both of these answers are on here. So I know it's going to be one of these, right? How do I decide which one it is? What's wrong?
One says pi over 2, one says 3 pi over 2.
Correct. One says pi over 2 and one says 3 pi over 2.
Wait. Yeah.
Where?
Quadrant?
By the quadrant. How do you know where we graph this?
Because of,
What is your actual coordinate for this? 0, 10. Where is 0, 10? Is it at the top? Or is it at the bottom? So which one are we using?
B. Let's get it.
So we graphed 0, 10. It would be up here. So we pick pi over 2 because it's on that axis. Do you now?
Yeah.
Okay, just remember that.
I'll just remember.
Just remember. All right, what's special about the next one? You definitely need to find R, so that'll eliminate either 2 of them or 3 of them. Okay. Here we go. What's your R? How do you get it?
Square root of -12 and square root
Negative 12
or squared.
squared plus,
-12 square root of 3 I squared.
did I have to put the negatives? No, they're gonna go out anyway. They're gonna go out anyway. You guys can put all this in your calculator if you'd like to at the same time, so you can be a little bit lazy. What do we get?
20.
So that eliminates B, D, and E.
Now we get.
No, we don't. What's the next thing we do? Tan theta equals B over A. What's your B?
Oh, it's just gonna be, they cancel out.
What is your B? -12 square root 3. What's your A?
Well,
-12. What happened?
they cancel. So square root.
So I get tan theta equals square root of 3. How do I fix that in my calculator? Gives me 60 degrees, right? What is 60 degrees? This is important. This is important. What is 60 degrees? Don't have that. Why?
Because you gotta get it twice. Right? No, something like that.
How did we pick between these two?
Quadrant.
Whatever quadrant it's in. So where would -12 square root of 3 be? So I need this to be in quadrant 3. So I need to be over here. So what do I do? From 180. So 180 plus 60 is
40.
240. I can cheat. What's 240?
4 pi over 3.
4 pi over 3. Go ahead.
How do you know whether to add it to 180 and subtract it from 290?
Okay, so we're in quadrant 3, right? This is a positive 60. So we're gonna go 60 degrees counterclockwise into quadrant 3. Does that make sense? Okay. 19. Y'all, this one is literally just using your calculator. Guys, we're just trying to get it in this form, and the way we're going to do that is get your cosine and sine as a decimal, distribute your 6. So what do I got to make sure of if I'm going to put cosine 7 pi over 12 in my calculator? Radian mode. So I'm going to do cosine 7 pi over 12. I'm gonna get an ugly decimal, and it's okay because if you look at all our answers, they're all decimal. I get negative 0.258. I'm gonna go ahead and go to that second 8. And then I'm gonna put in sine 7 pi over 12. And I get plus 0.9659 and that I. And then distribute your 6. So this first number times 6 gives me negative 1.55. It's got to be one of those. And obviously it's going to be which one? Because it's got to be positive, right? So there you go. Plus 5.8. All right, so when you're doing the next one, it says multiply the complex numbers below and leave the result in trig form. When you're doing the next one, multiply is the same thing as add. Now, when you're talking about your numbers outside, you want to go ahead and multiply those together. So we're going to go ahead and multiply 7 times 10, which is 70. So that eliminates these two. But with your cosine and sine, you add those numbers. So you would have cosine 6 pi over 7 plus 4 pi over 9 plus sine, same thing, 6 pi over 7 plus 4 pi over 9, and then it has that I. Just add your fractions. So alpha y equals 6 over 7 plus 4 over 9 gives us 82 over 63. So this will be cosine 82 over 63. That's as much as I need to write down because the other one's going to be exactly the same. So which one is your answer? So divide is the same thing as? Divide is the same thing as subtract. So you keep those front numbers the same. So if they're divisible, then you want to go ahead and divide them. Is 7/9 divisible? No. So we're going to have the 7/9 in front. And then I'm going to have cosine of 150 minus 190. And we're going to talk about this in just a second. Both numbers are going to be the same, so you don't have to rewrite the sign and stuff like that. So just subtract them. What do we get? Cosine of what? What's negative 40 mean? We're going backwards 40, right? So how would I figure out what the degrees are? What's 360 minus 40?
320.
Your answer is, what's it? It honest to God looks almost exactly the same, like different numbers. So it might be 6 over 12.
Because 320 and 340 is the same, right?
Yep.
Oh.
Did I go with that? He said we could have marked out these because these two numbers weren't the same, the 320 and the 340. He is absolutely right. All right, flip it over. Perform the indicated operation using trig form. Leave the answer in trig form. So what do we do? Yeah, we need to find R, but what do we have different than what we had before?
We have two.
We have two, so you're gonna do two at the same time. So your R is gonna equal your magnitude, -4 squared plus -4 squared of your first times your second. -8 squared plus -8 squared. All right, so remember, we can eliminate some of these, hopefully. Putting this in your calculator, you can go ahead and put it in just like you see it. I'm not gonna put it in all the way. This reduces to the square root.
Students at this time, all JV baseball needs to be released. JV baseball needs to be released at this time. Thank you.
Into the square root of 32 and the square root of 128, which gives me 64. So then I can eliminate what?
All of them except E.
Yes, I don't have to do all the work. So just in case that you have one like this, that they have more than one answer the same, I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to do the other. We're gonna do that tan theta of the first one. Your -4 over -4, which is 1. When you figure out theta, it is 45 degrees. The other one is also going to be what? If we have -8, -8.
What?
So I'm going to write it out. But again, if you're on your test and you recognize that, theta is going to be 45 degrees. What is 45 degrees as radians? Pi over 4. And since we're multiplying, multiply is the same as add. So we add them and we get 2 pi over 4 or pi over 2. That's where the pi over 2 comes from. So just in case. It is the same exact process. Just remember, when you multiply them, you add them. What do you do on this one? What I tell you about this theorem? Please put it in your calculator. So let's try that in our calculator. 5 parentheses square root of 3 plus I. Everybody knows where the I is, right? To the 7th. Jeez, can you stop? I'm just kidding. Second decimal.
I got it.
You can make it. Look at it. All right. What do we get?
-5.
Look at that last number. Okay, so let's start there. Do I see a -320I? If you plug in, guys, if you plug in that first part, you'll get that -554.
Oh, that's good.
Right. We're gonna try this next one. I don't know that it'll work, but I'm hoping it does. Put it in just like you see it, parentheses 5, parentheses cosine, but I need to make sure I'm what? Oh, let me go back because I'm not in degree mode. 330 plus I sine 330. Open 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Let's hope I got it right. Close it all squared. If I get a syntax error, I know I messed up my parentheses. Oh, there it is.
Wait, so you can't use brackets.
I don't know,
I used brackets and it did not work.
so don't use them. Did it give you an error?
Yes.
What error did it give you? Did it give you a syntax error?
Yeah.
That means you either, it may not be, it may be that you didn't close enough parentheses or you didn't close your bracket. So check how many open parentheses you have compared to how many closed. Yeah, so,
Yeah,
It's crazy.
there's a lot.
all right, so this is a positive 12.5, so that eliminates this one. That eliminates these two. Then we have a negative, so that eliminates B. And the only thing we have left is C. If you plug in 25 square root of 3 divided by 2, you get that 21.65. So these can be put in your calculator. Don't worry about learning that theorem. Okay, so he just doesn't have a, yeah, she said it's part of the bracket. So it should, I just don't know for sure. All right, look at your next one. Let's go to 27. We'll come back to 25 and 26. Those are probably the hardest problems in this test. 27. How do we find the area of a triangle? We could. How have we been doing it?
It was a squared equals b squared
Plus C squared.
plus c squared minus 2.
That's not that though.
Dude, where did that come from?
Okay,
is
No.
Yes, that is.
that was about an angle from such, yes, yes, that's that Heron's formula.
Long a. First you get strong, but find a little a.
I'm gonna move it in a minute. So that Heron's formula that we've already done in the beginning, A plus B plus C divided by 2. We have B and C, but he is right. We do need to find A. So how do we find A? We did it in the very beginning.
The A squared plus A squared equals B squared. Yeah, that.
Yeah, so law of cosine. We cannot use law of sines here because we don't have an angle across from a side that's given. So like a big A and a little a, or a big B and a little b. So this has to be cosines. So we have big A, so we're gonna start with little a. What's your B? 7 squared plus minus 2 times cosine 118. What do I need to make sure I'm in? Okay, I am in degree mode. So 7 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 7 times 10 cosine 118 gives me 214.73. Square root it. And I get that A equals 14.65. So that's the first part to get A. Now what do I need to get? S. So then I can get the area. So what's your A? What was your B? C divided by 2. This gives you 15.825. Then plug it into your formula. Square root your S, 15.825. And then 15.825 minus your A, 14.65. 15.2825 minus your 7 and 15.825 minus 10. Put all that in your calculator and you're going to get 30.916. Which one is it? Why is mine off? I think I used 825 and it says to use how many decimal places? 2. I used 3. Okay. given A equals 16 degrees and B equals 12 and A equals 10, use the law of sines to solve the triangle if possible for the value of little c. If two solutions exist, find both, round the answer to two decimal places. So what do we do? What side do we have across from the angle they give us? Our A's. So remember, a law of sines is sine of big A over little a, or you could have it flipped over, little a over sine of big A. What else did they give us? So we're going to do sine of big B over little b. I don't care how you make your triangle. Mine usually end up being isosceles and they shouldn't be. A is 16 degrees. Little a is 10. Little b is 12. All right. So sine, what's our degree of A? Little a is. We don't know big B, but we know that little b is 12. How do I solve? I'm not even gonna multiply. I want sine B, right? What's the only thing I need to get rid of? The divide 12. How do I do that? So it's gonna go on top of here. So I put that in my calculator. I need to make sure I'm in. And I am. We just did that. 12 sine 16 over 10. And then how do I find big B? Sine inverse of this answer gives us that big B is 19.32. What does that tell us? I can find big C, how? Subtract them both from 180, so 144.68.
Students and staff, please pardon this interruption, but students, we need your help. Student council has sent out a Google form, and they are trying to do something really nice and positive, and they really need for everyone, students, to look at your Google form and your email and respond to that form. Thank you very much.
Not right now. Not right now. All right. So then how do I find little c? All right, so I'm going to keep this because this is what was given just in case I screwed up on B. So sine of 16 over 10 equals sine of 144.68. I need y'all to stop talking, please. Over C. This one you can cross multiply. C sine 16 equals 10 sine 144.68. And then how do I solve for C? So I'm going to do alpha y equals 10 sine 144.68 over sine 16. I get little c equals 20.97. There is only one of them. It does have two answers, but you just go ahead and circle it. $29 is pretty much the same way. It's also law of sines and 30. Okay. So it says use law of sines to solve the triangle for the value of little b. Big A is 52. Big B is 65. Little a is 5.10. This one is not as bad because we're trying to find little b. So they give us everything except for that little b that we need. So what side and angle do we have across from each other? So we're going to do sine of big A over little a. We have big B. We need to find little b. So what is angle A? So sine 52 over little a is equals sine big B is 65 over little b. You're gonna cross multiply, you get 510. Either way, it's all the same. It just is a little bit easier to visualize like this. And then how do I solve for b? Put it all in your calculator, make sure you're in degree mode. And you're gonna get that b equals 5.865 or 5.87. All right, same thing on the next one. What did they give us?
Let's see, little a.
I'm gonna draw my picture just like the last one. They give us C is 115, little a is 19.9, little c is 15.3, but what are we looking for? Little b. So we got to do this a couple times. Okay. What are we going to set it up with? Equals, and what other thing do I have? Good. I have little a, so this is how I'm going to start. This does not help us with b. I mean, it will eventually, but it doesn't at this second. All right, so sine of 115 over little c is 15.3 equals sine, I don't know, a over little a is 19.9. What can I do just to solve for sine a? And then what do I do in my calculator? How do I put it in? Sine inverse. I'm gonna do alpha y equals 19.9 sine 115 over 15.3. What happens? It is not possible. All right. Go back to these. What? Go quick. All right, find the cube roots of the following complex number, write each of the roots in standard form. So what this means is we're gonna set x cubed equal to negative 125. All right, how many solutions should I have? I should have 3, okay? Here's how you figure it out. The first thing that I'm gonna do is add that 125 over and set it equal to 0 so I can find where it crosses the x-axis. So in my y equals x to the third plus 125. We can put our 0 in. You don't have to because it's where it crosses the x-axis. And then graph it. I'm gonna zoom 6. Who knows what was graphed? Where did that blue line cross? What? Negative 5. Did it cross at positive 5? No. So it crossed at negative 5. It did not cross at positive 5. It crossed at negative 5. Did not cross at positive 5. How many solutions did I say we would have? 3. So C cannot be your answer because I should have 3 solutions. Why don't I see the other ones? Because they're imaginary. That's where the I comes from. How do I figure out what they are? One should be positive, one should be negative, but they are. One positive, negative, one positive, negative. So a plus and a minus. How do I figure it out? It's where you do the quadratic formula. It's where you do the quadratic formula. So how do you figure out what you put in quadratic formula? You guys remember synthetic division?
Nope.
Too bad, you should. We got a -5.
Oh, yeah.
We have 1x cubed,
God bless.
no x squared, no x, and a 125. Guys, this is the easiest way. 1 times -5,
-5.
-5 plus 0 times -5 is plus 0 is. And then we multiply it, we get -125, which means a remainder of 0. We started with x cubed, so now we have x squared minus 5x plus 25. You don't have to write this. This tells you what your A, B, and C are for your quadratic formula. So your quadratic formula, x equals, change the sign of B. So change the sign of B, +5, plus or minus B squared minus 4 times A times C 2 times 1. Look at these first two numbers. They are both what kind of numbers? All right, thank you. Jacob, when we're done, you need to see Ms. Swain, please. Both of these are what kind of numbers? Don't make it hard. What kind of numbers? Positive numbers. Positive over a positive makes a positive. So is it going to be a -5/2 or a +5/2? You don't have to do the work. All right, the next one. What is the cube root of 64? 4. So is it -4 or +4? +4, right? So that eliminates which one? B and C. What else does eliminate? Because how many answers should I have? 3. All right. So what did you say your answer was? A +4? So then we have 1x cubed, no x squared, no x, and a -64. Bring down your 1 times 4 is 4 plus 0 is 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64, so I don't have a remainder. There's your A, B, and C. What are the only things that matter? Notice they're the same, right? So these first two are the only thing that matters. So what's your first number going to be? -4. Change the sign of 4 over 2 times A1. What does that give me? A -2. So which one's my answer? B. That's it. If you have not turned in your homework for this chapter, this unit, you need to get it turned in. If it's not turned in by Thursday, it's a big fat 0 and you can't fix it. Does everybody understand that? All right, Javen, go.
Can you explain